This video is the first one in section 4.3, and that's 3.3 in the 6th edition. So we're going to be talking about long division of polynomials. So just like with division when we're using numbers, we have all the same things, right? So we have the dividend, right? So if we were doing say we were doing 12 divided by 4, 12 is the dividend, 4 is the divisor, right? The answer is the quotient, okay? So dividend, and the 4 is the divisor. The 3 is the quotient. Okay, now suppose that, suppose we were doing 13 divided by 3. Okay, we still have the dividend, we still have the divisor. 3 is still the quotient, but there was 1 left over, right? So there's a remainder of 1. The 1 would be the remainder, but see, the 1 is still needing to be divided by the 4. The 12 got divided by the 4. The 1 also needs to be divided by the 4. So when we write it in as an equation, we include that dividend, or the divisor, in the bottom of the remainder. But if you really want to know, this is the remainder. Okay? That's the remainder. And when we talk about it, what is the remainder? We're just talking about that number. Okay? We're not talking about the 1/4, we're talking about the 1. And I'll try to make that clear as we go through and do equations. Lots of times when we talk about a remainder, and lots of times we talk about putting that remainder as part of an equation, and then it would be divided by the divisor. Okay? Alright, so let's try a problem. Alright, so here's our problem. My dividend is 6x squared minus 26x plus 12, and I'm going to divide that by x minus 4. So when you do the long division, dividend goes inside, right? It's 6x squared minus 26x plus 12. Okay, that's divided by x minus 4. Alright, hopefully you remember some long division, right? So when we do polynomials, we're going to look for what is going to get rid of the first term, right? So I want to multiply, I'll multiply by this whole divisor, right, when I put a number up here. But I want to make sure it gets rid of the first term. So what would I multiply x by to get 6x squared? Well, I would multiply by 6x. So what you want to do is you want to try to make it match exactly. So we got 6x squared, and then we do 6x times negative 4. That would be negative 24x. Now we multiplied, and now we want to subtract. Well, when you subtract a polynomial, you change all the signs. And I really encourage you to write it down straight the first time and then change the signs. If you try to change the signs as you go, you're going to miss some of them, and you will make a mistake. So I change the signs, and then I can just add. The first one should turn out to be 0, right? And then I got negative 26x plus 24x is negative 2x. And I'll bring down the 12. Then we go again. What can I multiply x by to get negative 2x? Well, that would be negative 2. So now I multiply the whole thing. 2 times x. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. You notice that I matched it exactly. Negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8. And then I change the signs. That way you won't miss any. So that would be a 4. As soon as we have a number here, you notice that this 4 has a lower degree than this, right? This is degree 1. This is degree 0. So we're done. Okay? This is the remainder. If I said in a question, which I will, what's the remainder? It would be 4. That would be the answer, 4. If I said, what's the whole answer? Then I would write it up here. This would give me an equation that was the answer. I would write 4 divided by my divisor. Okay, so this whole thing is my answer. So if I just want the answer, I would say it like this. If I want the remainder, I just say 4. Okay, here's another problem for us. Okay, so if we have my dividend inside, you notice that not all the exponents are there, right? So we start with x to the 4th, so we do have 8x to the 4th, but there isn't an x cubed. But when we do the multiplying and subtracting, there will be some, and it will mess us up if we don't have a spot for them. So in order to save the spot for the x cubed, and put 0x cubed plus 6x squared minus 3x plus 1. So putting that 0 in there, the 0x to the cubed, will help you not make mistakes. Okay? Because we're going to run into x cubes, and we need to be able to line them up. Alright, so here's my divisor. So I'm looking for something I can multiply 2x squared by something that would give me 8x to the 4th. So, well, 2 times 4 would be 8. And I have x squared, I want x4, so that would be x squared. Okay? Now I have to multiply, and I multiply it by all three of these terms. So 4x squared times 2x squared would give me 8x to the 4th. 4x squared times negative x would give me negative 4x cubed. And 4x squared times 2 would be 8x squared. Okay, now we change the signs, change every sign, and we add. So the first one is 0. Now I have 0 plus 4. If I hadn't put that 0 in there, I wouldn't be lined up to add things together. So that's going to be 4x cubed. Remember, we're adding. We changed the sign, and now we're adding. And this would be negative 2x squared. And I'll bring down the negative 3x. So what do I multiply now 2x squared by so that I can get 4x cubed? Well, it's going to be a 2 for the number, because 2 times 2 is 4. And then x squared, I need one more x, so that would just be 2x. Then I multiply it by everything. 2x times 2x squared would give me 4x cubed. That was not a negative yet. And then I have 2x times negative x. Well, that is negative 2x squared. And 2x times 2, that would be plus 4x. You change all the signs and add. So I got 0 in the first one. And look, I get 0 in the second one too. And then I have negative 7x. Bring down the 1. But now, what do you notice? This is to the first degree. This is to the second degree. So we're done, right? This is the remainder. And if I ask you for the remainder, you would just write negative 7x plus 1. And if I want to write the whole answer, it would be 4x squared plus 2x plus negative 7x plus 1 over 2x squared minus x plus 2. All right, that would be my whole answer. Okay, here's another one for us to try. So here's my dividend, and by the divisor. Alright, so I look at this and say, what can I multiply x by to get x cubed? So that's going to be x squared. Then I multiply by everything, I get x cubed and minus 2x squared. Then we change the signs and add. You should say that in your head all the time. Change the signs, then add. So that's a 0, and this would be 3x squared. I'll bring down the next term. So what do I need to multiply x by to get 3x squared? Well, that is going to be 3x. So 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times negative 2 would be negative 6x. Change the signs and add. So the first one is 0. The second one is 2x. I'll bring down the 4. So if I multiply, or what do I multiply x by to get 2x? That would be a 2. So 2 times x, 2 times 2, negative 2 is negative 4. Change the signs and add, and I get all zeros. So my remainder is a 0. So that is really important. What that means is this goes in there evenly, right? It's a factor. All right, so that means that my original polynomial, my dividend, is equal to x minus 2 times x squared plus 3x plus 2. Okay? That's equal to my original dividend. It's equal to this. So if I were working with this polynomial and I found that x minus 2 goes in there evenly, well, now I know that x minus 2 is a factor. And what did we say in the last video about when you have a factor of x minus 2, then what do you know? Well, you know a 0. So that means one of the zeros is going to be 2. Now we would keep going. We probably wouldn't have to divide anymore. We could factor this and get the other zeros. But we found the first one. We found the first one by dividing, right? We divide, we get 0 for a remainder. That means it goes in evenly. Here's your quiz question for this video. Do this division problem. Don't forget to put in a 0 for the x squared because there's not one in the equation, right? Figure it all out and then go to Canvas and write down the remainder. Just the remainder. Don't write it as a quotient. Don't write it divided by the divisor. Just write down the remainder.